Welcome to the Holistic Soul Sisters Radio, a channel created to help you heal holistically and grow spiritually. I'm your host, Mandi Rose. I'm not afraid to talk about taboo subjects, so nothing is off limits here. Make sure you hit subscribe and get ready to learn more from me and other experts on all things health, spirituality, astrology, lifestyle, relationships, and so much more. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Let's begin. Hello, my holistic soul sisters. I am finally back after a very long break from this podcast, and I'm so excited to come to you today with an IMO episode, which means in my opinion. This is something I've been kind of sharing quietly and slowly on my Instagram, and that is my sober journey. There's been a lot of questions around it, like why am I doing it? How's it going? What are some tips? So I wanted to do an episode today and just talk a little bit about it. But before I get into any of that, I want to just start this off with a little disclaimer. So obviously, this is my opinion. This is my journey. There's going to be some things that I share in this podcast that maybe you don't necessarily agree with, or you just don't think of it that way. And that is totally okay. As I share my truth in this episode, I want it to be a very judgment-free zone from your side to me, but also know that this is very much judgment-free from my side to you. This is in no way going to be an episode where I am trying to convince you to try being sober or to experiment with not drinking alcohol. That is your journey and your journey alone. I hope that this episode maybe inspires you to think a little bit different or to think outside of the box as far as alcohol is concerned. But all I'm really trying to do is just share my ahas, some things I've learned along the way, and also give you a little insight as to why I'm doing this. I am constantly on a healing journey, whether that's healing physically, healing mentally, healing from my past, my childhood, and healing right now a lot of spiritual stuff. And so that kind of led me into this decision to be sober. So I'm going to dive into all of that, but I wanted to make sure to kind of have that disclaimer as you listen that this is definitely in no way going to be an episode where I am telling you you should do what I'm doing. It is just an IMO, in my opinion, and I hope it inspires you. I would love to hear your feedback, or if you would love to chat more about my experience, or you have questions, or you're considering not drinking alcohol, but you're struggling or you need some support, I am always here. I've had some really good conversations with girlfriends over the last 3 months about this topic and kind of guiding them and giving them my little hacks and tips and tricks. So I am going to leave it at that, and we are going to dive into this episode on my 10 weeks so far of being sober. So where do we even begin? As I'm sitting down to record this episode, I have in front of me a whole list of notes. Some of them are lessons I've learned along the way. Some are tips and tricks for you guys on how you can start if you want to experiment with not drinking alcohol. And also a lot of things that I've kind of just been journaling along the way. So I'm going to try to make this make sense. But remember, it's all kind of just coming from my heart. And I just want to share with you guys what this has looked like and my reasons for doing this whole sober, curious lifestyle. And also next to me, I have a cocktail. No, it doesn't have alcohol in it. And quite frankly, I personally hate the word mocktail. There is no mock, there is no fake here. Anything can be a cocktail. When I mix herbs together, it is also a cocktail, a concoction, if you will. And so I am sitting here with my cocktail of choice, which is a LaCroix water with fresh berries and a little bit of tart cherry juice, because tart cherry is one of the most anti-inflammatory, anti-aging drinks that you can have. So I have my own version of a cocktail here. So I guess I'm going to kind of go back and start with how this all came to be. And that really was for me back in November. Now, to preference all of this, I have to say I have gone multiple times in my life with no alcohol. The first one was way back in 2016 when I decided to reverse my autoimmune disorder. If you guys have been following along on my healing journey, you know that I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's hypothyroidism. I was on Synthroid and medication for 7 years. And then I was diagnosed with a second autoimmune condition, which is very normal. If you are diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder and you don't work on healing the root cause, you will at some point be diagnosed with a second, third, fourth, and so on, because all autoimmune has a root cause. So I was diagnosed with a second autoimmune disorder, and that was celiac. So I had to be gluten-free. And after about 7 years of the autoimmune journey, I decided to reverse it. And that meant being alcohol-free. I went on an autoimmune paleo diet, very clean, very anti-inflammatory, and did not drink alcohol for 9 months. So that was a no-brainer. I had to do it for my health. Easy peasy, did it. The second time around I went no alcohol was when I got really sick with mold poisoning. You guys also know that story. If you haven't heard it or are curious about my crazy health crisis back in 2019, it is on the podcast as an episode. And I didn't drink alcohol for 10 months at that point. I just had absolutely no choice. My body wouldn't tolerate alcohol. I had to detox out a lot of things. And since alcohol is a poison, that was just not going to work for me. So, I've done this no alcohol thing for a very long time, and alcohol to me is really not a necessity. I can go out dancing with my friends and be the sober driver. I have no problem with that. I can go to social events and be the only one not drinking. I'm so used to that from those two periods of my life. So for me, I never really thought alcohol was an issue. I don't have to drink. I don't really care to drink very often. When I do drink, nothing bad has ever really happened. I'm still very conscious as far as not drinking and driving. So I just never really considered alcohol to be a problem for me until let's go back now to November of 2021. If you follow me along on social media, you know that my man, Sasha P, decided to go no alcohol for 13 weeks. And this was a really big deal. 13 weeks doesn't seem like a long time, but for someone who grew up in Germany, where drinking is a part of the everyday norm, having a beer with lunch from the age of 15 to having a glass of wine with dinner, it is just a part of their everyday lifestyle. And so for him to be in his late 30s and have never gone more than a week or two without a beer here or a beer there was kind of a big deal. So when he took that challenge on, I was so impressed and so inspired. Now, at that time, I didn't stop drinking. I wasn't really needing to support him in that journey. It was kind of his own journey. And so I would still drink wine here and there. I would have a cocktail here and there. And something that started to reflect was in a fight, or if we had a disagreement, or something came up in our relationship, I couldn't blame it on him anymore. I couldn't blame it on the fact that we were drinking. I couldn't put it on anything else other than me. And I had to start looking in the mirror as to why was I getting so triggered? What was causing me to be so upset? Why was I feeling so low or so negative? And not just about the relationship, but just about things, life in general. And so it was very much a mirror. I see Sasha and I as twin flames, if you know anything about that. And twin flames really trigger each other in a way to force them to grow. And so he reflects upon me when I need to change, and vice versa. I reflect back to him what he needs to change. And so we are very much opposite, but mirrors of each other. And so his not drinking forced me to look in the mirror and see how I was using alcohol in my life. So that happened back in the fall and into the winter season. And then later on, he did go back to drinking like normal, a drink here or there. But I started to notice it was a lot less. It wasn't a beer every day with dinner. It wasn't at every social gathering. It was just kind of here or there when he felt like it. And it would just be like one drink. And that really never made sense to me. I've never been someone who drinks alcohol where it's like, yeah, I could just have one drink. I'm not going to drink at all. But when I drink, I want it to be worth it. So I'm going to have 3 or 4. I'm going to go out to eat and have drinks at dinner and pay, $12 or $13 a cocktail. So I always just like kind of went from 0 to 100. Now, not to like 100 where it was toxic or bad behavior, but I just kind of thought, you know what, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to make it worth it. So this one drink here and there didn't make sense to me. So again, I was learning through his journey. And then I really started in the spring, as I always do. I do a lot of spring cleaning, spring cleansing for my body. So I was doing parasite cleanses and detoxing candida and just the usual thing I do. And I started to realize how much alcohol plays into my physical health. Now, I've healed a lot. I'm always on a healing journey. So, a 10-day parasite cleanse, a 1 month parasite cleanse with no alcohol isn't really a big deal for me. But what I started to really piece together is that alcohol is a poison. And so, as I'm sitting here trying to heal my liver, I'm trying to heal different parts of my body, I'm really just poisoning it over and over again with something that isn't really going to benefit me. And I know this isn't obvious. We all know that alcohol is a poison. That's what makes us feel drunk. But when I really started to break it down on a cellular level and from a health perspective, it really started gaining more momentum as to why am I doing this and is it really worth it? I also started to realize that on weekends that I would have alcohol, my skin would start to get really dry, my wrinkles would kind of come popping out. My overall appearance was just like low vibration. I started to lose muscle mass. And even if it was only for one weekend, you have those weekends where you go away on vacation or you have a birthday party on Saturday and an event on Sunday. And you're like, well, if I already drank on Friday, I might as well drink on Saturday and I might as well drink on Sunday. And Monday comes and my whole appearance, just my skin, my eyes, my aura was totally diminished and dulled. And it just like hit me like, whoa, I just lowered my vibration for what? Right now, I'm going into Monday morning feeling totally blah. So that was something I started to realize. The other health component to it is I was working on a lot of nervous system healing. So I'm going to take a moment to kind of talk about nervous system healing because I know it's a foreign concept for a lot of people, but I think it's going to help you make sense as to why you might be using alcohol in the wrong way to heal your nervous system. So, most of us are busy bees, right? Every day is filled with things to do, and there's never enough hours in the day. We are becoming increasingly busy and overwhelmed with stimulation. We look at our phones 24/7, and the way that we're using our phones now is like in very quick, short processed information. So, a 15-second TikTok, a really quick reel, a scroll with a new face, a new voice, a new tone, a new message, a new lesson. And we're getting bombarded with so much data so quickly that our brains and our nervous system can't process it, as well as constantly being busy and never having a chance to rest and digest all the things that we've experienced throughout our day. We are surrounded by people in large groups and having large friendship circles, lots of family members, neighbors, people that we have to keep up with and keep in contact with, jobs that are forcing us to take on one role for two people, which is also nervous system overload. And I started to realize within myself that I was so overstimulated, reading too much, learning too much, being on social media too much, having too many friends, having too many conversations. And I was constantly in fight or flight. And it was putting me in this state of not anxiety per se, but in just overwhelm. And so my nervous system was so stimulated. I would listen to music really loud. When I listened to a podcast, instead of listening it on like one speed, the regular speed, I was listening on it 2x, double the speed, because I wanted to get through it faster and learn the information faster. I was starting to talk faster. I would get really irritated or agitated if I had to wait or just sitting outside and staring at the water. I felt bored. So I just realized I needed to calm my nervous system. Now, this leads back to alcohol because alcohol is a depressant and it calms our nervous system. And that's why so many of us at the end of a long day or a really challenging period of our life, we reach for alcohol to calm us down because it's going to calm the nervous system. However, the stress that alcohol as a poison, as a toxin, inflicts upon our body is actually going to cause us more stress, right? You know this feeling. You wake up after drinking, you feel so good, you feel light. When you're drinking, you're having the best time, no stress, you're carefree. But then you wake up the next day, and not only do you have to go back into your reality of life, your overstimulated life that you've created and accepted, you also have to do that with a hangover. And when you have a hangover, you're low vibration, your liver is taxed, you're depleted in minerals, you're depleted in vitamins, your brain is foggy. And so you're already at a negative going back into your day to day life that's overstimulated. And therefore, now you get more anxious, you get more irritable, you're more overwhelmed. That leads you to wanting to pick up that drink again that night. And the cycle continues. You feel good, you feel a high, and then you rebound the next morning into this overstressful life on top of feeling depleted from the physical side effects of alcohol. And so I realized, oh my gosh, every time I drink, I'm triggering my nervous system and making everything worse. So, from a health perspective, my appearance, my skin, I would lose muscle mass. It was poisoning my liver, poisoning my kidneys. It was aging me. Alcohol ages you so fast. So, here I am wanting to get Botox when I could just stop drinking alcohol, right? Because that's going to do the same thing, decrease aging. So, and then the nervous system part of it. So, I knew for my health, not drinking would be a really good option. And we all know that, right? Every single one of us. That's not rocket science. The second thing that started to come to me as to why I might not want to drink was very much about the mental aspect, right? We know that alcohol is a depressant. It decreases our feel good hormones, the serotonin and the dopamine. And also, our brain chemistry, our brain, the happy hormones, is related to our gut, right? We know that there's a gut brain connection. All happy brain chemicals are made in the gut. And alcohol ruins our gut health. It tears up our gut lining. And so now I'm not getting happy brain chemicals made every time I drink, which is then the next day, the week after, so on, going to put me in a negative headspace. We all know after a weekend of drinking, we wake up feeling so negative, irritable, cranky. The world is miserable. I'm miserable. Like nothing seems bright and rosy. And I don't want to live that life. I want to wake up every day and feel magical. So I started to realize the effects on not only my happy brain chemicals, but also my mindset and believing in the universe, trusting in myself, seeing life as an adventure was kind of slowly diminished the weekends I would drink alcohol. And also having a lot of clarity, brain fog. Even if I only drank one weekend, it would last until like the Wednesday, Thursday of the following week until I started to actually get my clarity back and my energy back and my vibrancy back. And then I just like have a drink again the following weekend and so on. So I'm losing lots of time. And that was the next thing I started to realize is that I have large goals, super, super large goals financially with my business. I have large goals as far as wanting to see the world and to travel. And so, with these exceptionally large goals, how does alcohol fit into that, right? How does it diminish my ability to accomplish these goals that matter to me? And the first one, obviously, is money. We all know that you can spend a lot of money on alcohol. And there were many, many times I wish I could go back in my life and take back or get back all the money I've ever spent on alcohol. The nights where I'd drop $100 at a bar, all the times that I would drink and not even feel drunk, like you just have a glass of wine and you weren't even doing it for any particular reason. It was just because you were at dinner with friends or just because it was what everyone else was doing. And so I started to realize how expensive this habit was. And what if I could take that money and put it towards my healing? Instead of spending $60 on a Saturday at a bar, I was going to take that $60 and invest in a massage or invest in a facial or invest in a Reiki session or invest it in some other modality that I would see as a luxury. And I made that luxury my new normal instead of alcohol being my normal. I'm going to say that one more time. I made the luxury things in life my new normal instead of alcohol already being my normal. I wanted to trade that out. So that was something I started to realize. I also started to piece together back in the spring with my astrology background that we are going into a recession. The way that gas prices are increasing, food is increasing in price, everything is increasing in price. And so I want to save my pennies. I know that we're going to get into really sticky financial situations within the next year. And I will be so upset with myself if I am sitting in December of 2022 with less money in my bank account during a recession because I decided to spend it all this summer on alcohol. Something that doesn't serve me, that doesn't align me with my goals, and that doesn't get me into the next chapter of my life, living the life that I want to live. So I was like, absolutely not. I know there's a recession coming, and the way that I'm going to cut back is by not spending it on alcohol. So I already knew that back in the spring. And then the last thing is, I started to realize that it was really affecting my relationships. And I don't want to say that it was causing toxicity in my relationships, but it was really getting to a point that I realized when I would drink, all my bottled up emotions that I stored down and repressed and shoved inside of me would come up and come out when I would have a drink, even just one drink. I'm not talking like those drunken nights where you like cry, even just one drink would put me in such a comfortable state to speak my truth that I would just start word vomiting all of my feelings unexpectedly at my partner, who was like, wait a second, where did all that just come from? Why haven't you told me along the way? Why do you wait until you have one cocktail to just spew it all out? And that was really a reflective moment that if I want to have deep, intimate relationships, not only with my partner, but with friends, alcohol couldn't be part of that equation. I'm going to give you two examples. One, when I would go out with my girlfriends in the past and we would go out for a night of drinking, do you think that in that night of drinking, we ever really had deep, serious conversations? No, I never really got to know my girlfriends more on a deep level. It was all very superficial. Have some drinks, have a good time, laugh, joke, dance. Like it would be a lot of fun. But I realized I didn't really know anything about my friends' feelings, emotions, traumas, what they were experiencing in their life, what they were working on. Like, I just didn't have a full picture of my friend because alcohol didn't allow us to connect deeply. And I also saw this in my relationships, and this is definitely something I encourage you to explore is in your relationships, are you afraid to go deep with that person? Are you afraid to let that person in? Are you afraid to really have tough conversations? And when you drink, it's easier for you to let it all out or to suppress it way down inside. And I didn't want that kind of relationship. And that takes me back to November when my partner wasn't drinking for 13 weeks. I was realizing how he was able to communicate more calmly, more clearly, because he was taking the time to actually think about his emotions in a sober headspace to identify them so he could communicate them instead of suppressing them. And so I realized to have more intimacy in my relationship, to have a better connection with my partner, I wanted to see what that would be like without alcohol at all. If that would change my mindset, if that would change the way that I felt and communicated. So, to have a better relationship, I was like, alcohol can't be a part of that. I've never heard a healthy relationship that people have when they're drinking every day with their partner, right? And again, this is an episode of my opinion. So, if you are someone that's in a healthy and happy relationship, getting your needs fulfilled, at that level of intimacy that's comfortable for you and you and your partner both drink, remember, this is judgment free. That is so great for you. Like, I'm so proud of you for accomplishing that with a substance like alcohol. So, everyone's on their own journey. I'm just saying for me personally, I know that alcohol was kind of getting in the way of me being able to go deeper and more intimate with my partner. And lastly, the spiritual component of drinking alcohol. This was huge because y'all know I'm on a spiritual journey. Through astrology, I've really opened up my mediumship abilities, connecting with my intuition, connecting to the divine, being able to read energies, doing chakra balancing. And it was only during my last health crisis, my mold toxicity, when I didn't drink for 10 months, that all of those spiritual gifts came to me. It was something I really knew I had when I was younger, like 13, 14 years old. But I started drinking alcohol at like 15 and 16. Again, the German culture. When I would go to Germany, I'd have glasses of wine. And now looking back, when I started drinking alcohol, all those intuitive spiritual gifts that I had in my teenage years disappeared because I was drinking alcohol. I was suppressing. Remember, alcohol is a suppressant. It suppressed my ability to be high vibrational and connected to the divine. And so when I was sick with mold for 10 months, all of my spiritual gifts came back. So as I'm working on my intuition and tarot and wanting to dive more into my mediumship, I knew that alcohol was only going to distract me from that goal. And something that is just kind of interesting to note is that alcohol is called a spirit, right? And in history, you can go back and learn about why alcohol was called a spirit, because it is believed in ancient cultures that alcohol lowers your vibration, right? It makes us feel blah. It lowers our vibration. It pokes holes or weakens, however you want to look at it, pokes holes in our aura. And our aura is our energetic field. We know that our heart can be measured 6 feet outside of our body. The electromagnetic current in our heart can be measured 6 feet outside of our body. Our brain waves can be measured outside of our body. And all of us have this energetic magnetic field around our body, and that's called our aura. And when we drink alcohol, that aura becomes weakened. And so people are able to access your energy easier, and spirits are able to access your energy easier. And that's why alcohol is called spirits, because spirits are able to take over someone who is weakened energetically. And I've seen this, and don't tell me you haven't seen this in someone else too. When someone is super, super drunk and they're blacked out and you look in their eyes, it seems as if they're possessed. Like they're not even here on planet Earth, right? Like something else took over their body. And when someone's really drunk, they become a different person, right? Like either it's a happy person or it's an angry person. And they're a certain way when they get really drunk or blacked out. And now learning spirituality, it's almost like this demonic or energetic being has taken over your vessel, your physical body, because you've weakened your energy, you've weakened your aura using alcohol, a spirit. So I was like, absolutely, I have to really kind of dive into that, acknowledge that. I believe that to be true. So why would I want to drink alcohol and disconnect myself from my higher being, from my intuition, from my ability to tap into the divine energy of the universe? For what? For alcohol? No, I can't do that anymore. So those were some of the major reasons of why I started to think, what would a life without alcohol look like? And after all of that, it was like, okay, this is super obvious. This is the stage of life I'm in. And then there was one other major thing that really was kind of that like final nail in the coffin where I realized I'm in the stage of life where alcohol cannot be a part of my life. And that has to do with me doing a lot of womb healing. So this isn't something I've talked about a lot. Those who know me for a really long time might take this as a complete surprise. But it's just something that's come to me slowly through my intuition, through my trauma healing, through meeting a lot of amazing women in my life. And it is the fact that I started to realize that maybe, possibly, I would want to be a mother one day. And my whole life, I've always said, I don't want to be a mom. Absolutely not. No way. Not for me. But as I'm getting to this stage of life at 35, I started to sit down and think, why am I so resentful? Why am I so against having children? Like, what is it? Is it a past life thing? Is it a fear thing? Is it a knowing thing? I know I don't want to be. Like, what is it? And I got to figure it out. I'm 35. And so I have been working with some amazing healers, one of them being my dear friend Rose, who I'm going to have on the podcast. We are going to be doing an entire podcast mini series on this topic that I'm about to mention. But I went to see her, and she does a lot of womb healing, divine feminine work, healing our sacral chakra, doing past life regression stuff. And so I had to go to her and be like, what is going on? Why am I feeling this way? And through that, it has really opened up my mind to this viewpoint of conscious conception. And conscious conception is really just based around the idea of preparing your body, preparing your vessel, preparing your womb space for pregnancy, right? A lot of people, and again, this is absolutely no judgment at all. It's just where I'm at in my stage of life, is that we just get pregnant or we're having fertility issues or whatever And we get pregnant and we do the best that we can, and we become mothers and we do the best that we can, and we just roll with it, right? It's life. You just got to roll with whatever it is and make the best of it and do the best that we can. However, I started realizing in a lot of my healing sessions and a lot of my therapy that I've waited so long in my life to get pregnant. And it's for a reason. And the reason is that I know that if I get pregnant, I want to be the best that I can be. Bring all of my knowledge, all of my holistic health, all of my resources together, because I truly believe that as women, we are so powerful that our womb is the portal from the spiritual world to the physical world. And that womb space becomes the home, the first environment in the physical world for a baby to thrive in. And so I want my womb to be healthy, and not just healthy in a like, oh, my blood work looks good and my hormones are optimal, but in a no trauma, no triggers, to be a space that is calm and peaceful and have this conscious conception, right? And conscious conception begins long before an egg and a sperm are fertilized. It begins with the human body being at a very optimal vibration, right? Because that DNA in the sperm, that DNA in that egg vibrates at a certain frequency. And so, long before I would ever possibly think of getting pregnant, I would have to start working on healing my body, raising my vibration, detoxing out everything from heavy metals and parasites and candida, because I would want to give my child the best life possible, especially being later in life at 35, right? And I know through my healing, I know what people are going to say. You never know what's going to happen. You could do all the right things and your child could still have health issues, right? I know, I get it. But for me personally, conscious conception means that I'm going to do everything I possibly can do to prepare my body for such an amazing experience. And not even just for me, but for that soul that is going to come to this earth. This earth that is already such a difficult place to live, right? We know that currently on planet Earth, the human body is suffering through radiation, EMFs, overstimulation, toxins in the food and the water, the stress of life. Like, as soon as a baby is born, there are studies that show that when a baby is born, on average, it already has 300 different detectable chemicals in its body. That is scary. That is so scary. So these newborns coming out, these souls, these brand new souls are coming out at such a disadvantage. And I would want to consciously conceive. So that begins now. Whether I decide to have a child or not, whether, my journey is motherhood or not, I want to start preparing my body. And alcohol at no way fits into this conscious conception, right? And so that was a major aha for me to be like, right here, right now, we're going to remove something that you know is a poison, that decreases your vibration, that affects your mental health, that affects your relationship. Because, right, if you're going to bring a child into the world, or at least if I'm going to at such a late stage of my life, I want to do it in the healthiest relationship possible. I want to do it in a relationship that becomes an example for my child of healthy, clear communication, of boundaries, of ways of interacting with each other that aren't triggered, right? Alcohol triggers us. And just in this relational dynamic that feels safe. So again, this was kind of that point in my life where I was like, all right, we're doing this. We're doing this. And so a lot of people ask me, how long are you not going to drink for? I don't know. That was the weirdest thing. Like every other time, it was like, I'm not going to drink until I'm healthy enough to drink. But right now, I'm pretty healthy. So I don't know. Right now, where I sit today, it has been 10 weeks. And, originally I said I'm not going to drink till my birthday, which is August 31st. So I still have another 10 weeks to go for that. But I don't even know if that's going to happen, right? So we will see when the time comes. I feel like either I will come to a point of clarity on the conscious conception and what that will look like and when that would look like. And that might help guide me as to being like, okay, I can go back to drinking once in a while or only on special occasions. Or I might want to do conscious conception a lot sooner. And in that case, I might as well just continue on my journey of not drinking. I have to also say that this whole journey of not drinking would have been a lot more challenging had I not had very inspiring people around me. Not only did my partner not drink for 13 weeks, so I got to see the reflection of that and the growth within him, which was inspiring, but also one of my dear friends had quit drinking over a year ago. And she is in her mid 20s, the prime of your life where you go out drinking, go out dancing, living your best life. And she just cold turkey stopped. And I always thought, oh, she'll probably go back to drinking sometime soon. And an entire year went by. And I was like, damn, like she has really thrived. She has transformed her business, like such an inspiration. And then the girl I just mentioned, my dear friend Rose, who was doing my womb healing and energy healing, doesn't drink at all. And she's in her early 20s. And the first time I ever met up with her after we connected on Instagram and went for dinner, I asked her, right there at dinner, are you going to have a drink? And she said, no, I don't drink. Just like that. And I was like, cool. Neither do I really. So this is a great forming friendship. Goes back to what I was talking about relationships. And it's hard to have deep, intimate relationships when you're using alcohol as part of your friendship. So I was like, oh my gosh, I have met a woman who can become a friend that's not going to be based on superficial alcohol. We're going to be able to have deep, intimate conversations. And she's going to be able to understand my spirituality and my connection and all these things that sober friends can do for us. So, not to say that I only want to hang out with people that are sober. That has been such a blessing of all of my journeys of sobriety, is that I don't care if people around me are drinking. I was a bartender for 12 years. So many, many times in my life have I been the sober one watching someone get drunk in front of me, right? As a bartender, you watch people get drunk. And it didn't bother me at all. I would still have great fun conversation, if not even better conversations, because I was the sober one watching them act a fool. But it doesn't really bother me if people drink around me, right? Live your best life. I'll drive us home. I don't care. I'm not resentful. But there is something absolutely beautiful in having friendships that are based around not drinking. So that kind of leads me into the lessons I want to share with you that I have learned over the last 10 weeks. So again, I went into this thinking, no big deal. It's not going to be challenging. I've done this before. But now I'm doing it for other reasons. And I'm doing it even though I could drink. And there are times I walk around the grocery store and I see one of those bottles of wine of buttery Chardonnay that I love so much. And I think, oh, what's the big deal? I'm just going to have a glass. Like, really, girl, it's not going to hurt you that much. But then I instantly remember I've got big goals. I'm going to be spending money on it that I could spend on something else. It's going to make me feel like crap the next day, on and on and on, back to all the reasons I listed. So hopefully those reasons I listed kind of inspired you and made you think, okay, I have some of those reasons as well. And maybe those reasons will inspire you to also try this sober, curious lifestyle. So let's talk about some of the lessons I've learned. Well, one of the biggest lessons I've learned is as I am sober for an extended period of time, I started to realize that when I drink, I tap into my masculine energy. And I am working on my feminine. This is something that has been a very ongoing journey for me. I'm very much a masculine energy, which means I go, 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 do, accomplish, 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 aggressive, assertive, dominating, leaning more into control instead of flow. And I want to be more feminine. I want to be more relaxed. I want to receive more. I want to be nurtured more. I want to go with the ease and the flow of life. I want to manifest. I want to create. I want to tap into that sexy, powerful, feminine goddess energy and less of the warrior, fighter, masculine. And I started to realize that every time I drank, I went to masculine, not to feminine. And I'm already masculine enough. So that was such an aha moment when I would look back and reflect. I would get loud, I would get bold, I'd be the center of attention. I would, again, spew and dump and spill aggressively all of my emotions on someone when I was drinking. So that was something I learned. The second thing I learned through not drinking for now 10 weeks is I started to actually feel into my body. When I would drink alcohol, I would almost disconnect from my physical body. So if I had pain in my back, if I was feeling irritable or anxious and have kind of like those heart palpitations, if I felt disconnected from my sexuality, I would just drink, right? Anytime I drank, I didn't feel my body anymore. And really think about this every time that you've been intimate or had sex when you were drunk. Did you really feel pleasure? Did you really feel into your body? Or was it just a way for you to disconnect so you could have fun, so you could disconnect and not be judgmental, disconnect so you didn't have to worry about being judged by someone else? Did you kind of leave your body? And so being sober for 10 weeks, I now start to actually feel into my body. I feel grounded. I feel strong. I feel different sensations and ask myself, ooh, why did I just have a little bit of anxiety? Where did that just come from? Do I need to rest more? Do I need to relax my nervous system? Or is this an emotion I need to communicate instead of suppressing? So I really have been able to feel more into my body. The other thing that I learned is that you're going to trigger others. You're absolutely going to trigger others when you decide not to drink alcohol, and you have to be okay with that. Misery loves company. People who use alcohol as a crutch don't want to feel bad about it. And so when you tell them, no, you don't drink alcohol or no, you don't want to drink, it kind of, again, shows them a reflection of who they are in the mirror. Then they become uncomfortable. So they would rather you drink with them so they feel more normal than you saying actually drinking every day isn't normal, or me not drinking because I have a big thing happening on Monday is my truth. Maybe that's not normal, right? So you're going to trigger people and you just have to be okay with that. I say really come at it with love. I tell people right away, nope, it's totally okay if you drink. I don't care if you get super drunk. Doesn't bother me at all. I'm going to have a good time regardless. And I am not judging you at all. This is my journey. This is what I have to go through. And so please, like, do you. I would come at it with the most love you can to make people feel more comfortable. But just know you're going to trigger others when you don't want to partake in their drinking anymore. Something else that I learned is that I feel like I have more freedom in my life when I don't drink alcohol. Part of that comes from when I go out now. I can leave when I want. I don't have to call an Uber. I don't have to look for a sober driver. I don't have to pay money to get home with an Uber. I'm free. I can stay here as long as I want. I can leave when I want. I can do whatever I want the next morning because I feel energy, and I'm not almost like restricted or shackled or tied to not only the alcohol, but the repercussions, the consequences of drinking alcohol. So I feel like I have a lot more freedom. Another lesson that I didn't really expect to happen is a lot of deep, deep emotions started to come up because I wasn't really masking it. I wasn't shoving it down. I was having to actually face all my feelings all the time. And that's why I think a lot of people subconsciously might have a challenge with not drinking alcohol, because you got to feel the feelings, all of them, the good, the bad, the sad, the angry, the repressed ones, the ones that you held onto from 5, 10 years ago. So there's been a lot of emotional healing that's been happening in the last 10 weeks that I really didn't anticipate. I thought it would be like, oh, not drinking alcohol, I feel better, I'm healthier, my mental health is better. Yay, yay, yay. Life is roses and butterflies. But it's been actually the contrary. It's actually stirring and bringing up a lot of deep things that I didn't even realize was there. And now I'm having to process it sober. So that was something that was really interesting. And I'm glad I'm working on it. Again, going back to that conscious conception and wanting to release all this ancestral stuff, stored trauma from my childhood, repressed emotions, all these things that I don't want to pass on energetically to my child, either through my womb, when they're, cooking in my womb, or when they actually are in the physical world around me, picking up my energy, because babies are so empathic. They will pick up on all energy until the age of 7. Under the age of 7, all children are in a meditative theta brainwave state. So all they can learn is through feeling energies. And so I want to make sure that my energy is cleared and I don't have all these repressed emotions in my auric field. And one of the last major, I can't even emphasize this enough. One of the last major lessons that I have learned through this 10 short weeks of being sober, and I say 10 short weeks because 10 weeks isn't really that long. Life goes by so fast. And so many times I think back and go, oh my gosh, it's already been that long. But this lesson is major, and that is my self commitment to not drinking is self love. I'm going to say that again in a different way. Me committing to myself, to putting my goals financially, my goals of my business, putting my mental health, my physical health, putting my relationship, putting my spiritual gifts and my spiritual connection to God, source, energy above everything else is the ultimate form of self love. I am committing to me. I'm committing to the things that are true and that light me up. I'm committing to something that is so important to me that I am willing to give up anything that isn't in alignment with that. And that has been the ultimate form of self love. And through the discipline of saying, no, this is my journey, this is my lane, and I am sticking to it for me, has just shown myself that I really prioritize myself above anything else. If I go out and people try to convince me to have a drink, I'm not going to betray myself for them, right? I am going to prioritize my needs. I'm going to prioritize my self care instead of going out and feeling like crap the next day. I'm going to prioritize my money and my goals and my business over a quick weekend of fun, right? That doesn't really benefit me. So, committing to this has shown me how much love I have for myself, my goals, and it just feels really, really good, especially as someone who's a people pleaser and I give a lot and I cross my own boundaries often, something I'm also working on. This way of showing myself that I'm willing to stick to something I know is good for me every day, even though I could drink, even though it wouldn't really be that bad for me, is just showing myself that I am committed to me above everything else. So that's been really exciting journey to learn. And I guess that just kind of leads me into answering a few of your questions and leaving you with some tips and tricks if you are interested in this sober, curious life. I did get some questions on if it helped with certain health issues. So one of them was insomnia. Did not drinking alcohol help with my insomnia? That's a tough one to answer. I will say yes and no. It helped me actually sleep better throughout the night. So once I actually fell asleep, I would sleep deeper and I would wake up more refreshed. That's because I was able to repair. When we sleep, our body's supposed to repair. But when you're drunk and your body is processing alcohol, it is actually working to detox instead of repair. So I feel like collectively over 10 weeks, I've actually felt my shoulder, which had a lot of trauma from bartending and working in the beauty industry. I had a lot of tears in my shoulder. I feel like all of that is starting to heal, because when I would drink, my body is just detoxing and not actually repairing. So my sleep was a lot more restorative. Falling asleep has always been my challenge. So that comes one of my tips is I substituted alcohol for cacao. Cacao is amazing. I'm going to do an entire podcast episode on how I have used cacao to replace alcohol. Cacao increases GABA, it increases happy brain chemicals, it increases our energy. It is such a happy boost drink. And alcohol is such a depressing drink. So, drinking cacao every day has really, really helped my physical, mental, and spiritual health. But it is a great replacement for alcohol. There's a lot of studies that show in alcohol rehab clinics, if participants drink alcohol on a regular basis and switch to cacao, they're able to get off of alcohol a lot easier. So, I totally recommend people to drink cacao instead of alcohol. So if you're going out at night, have a cup of cacao. Cacao is pure cacao bean. It is chocolate on steroids. It's going to make you feel good, right? Chocolate makes us feel good. Cacao makes you feel amazing. So that is one of my tips. Another question I got asked a lot was, are you pregnant? When I say to people, I'm not going to be drinking alcohol for a while, are you pregnant? No, I'm not, but it goes back to that conscious conception. I want to act as if I already am because I need to do a lot of healing to prepare my vessel if and when I choose to have a child. So, conscious conception looks at being very conscious, very aware of the entire conception process and what you want your body to look like at the moment of conception. So, working a lot around that. So, no, I'm not pregnant. Another question I got was, how do you go out and socialize if you're not going to drink? I guess this is kind of second nature to me. Again, I've mentioned this a couple times. I've gone no drinking for extensive periods, so I don't really care. I was a bartender, so watching people get drunk was kind of my norm every day at work. So for someone else, I would say my best advice is to choose who you're going to be around wisely. If you're going to be around people that make you feel bad for not participating, make you feel bad for not drinking, that make you feel like you're lame or not fun, they're not your people. Find new people. But if you are going to be around people that don't make you feel that way, it shouldn't be difficult to say no. So kind of find the joy, learn through it, and honestly, when you're not comfortable, leave. Don't even self-sacrifice. If you go to a party and you think you're going to be fine because you're not drinking, and you get there and you're bored, you're uncomfortable, you don't want to be there, frickin' leave. You're sober. You can get in the car, you can leave, or go for a walk. Trust me, when the rest of the party is drunk, they're not even going to know that you left to go for a walk, right? As people are drinking, they're not even aware of what you're doing anymore. So if you're just having bubbly water, if you're just, going for a walk outside, take your space, no one is going to notice. It's totally fine. So don't sacrifice yourself. That would be my biggest tip. And really pay attention to who you socialize with. Oftentimes, you're craving conversation when you're sober and everyone's drunk. You're craving connection. You're craving some sort of intimacy that the drunk people aren't able to give you because they're not in that space of having a serious conversation. They're not in a space of honestly holding space for your emotions. And so most often I find that that's what's making me irritable. Not that they're drunk, it's that I'm not getting my needs fulfilled in an intimate way in our connection or in our friendship in that moment. And so I remove myself because it's not serving me. And I don't want to fake having fun by pretending to be drunk. Do you know what I mean? Hopefully that makes sense. Another question I got was, what do you do if you were to commit to not drinking and then you drank? So this would be like, I'm not going to drink for a month, and then 10 days in, you have a glass of wine. What do you do? Well, this goes back to a very good conversation I've been having with my dear friend Brittany, that selfish bitch. She has a podcast episode here on Holistic Soul Sisters. Go back and listen to it. It's in the Heartbreak to Heal mini series. And her and I were talking a lot about not drinking, and when we do break that commitment, to not have any shame or guilt around it. If I were to make this commitment and I'm 10 weeks in and I broke down this weekend and I had a glass of wine, I'm going to have that glass of wine with no shame or guilt. Because when we get stuck in shame and we get stuck in guilt, like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. I feel so bad. I'm so guilty. Oh my gosh, why did I do that? I hate myself. I was on such a roll. We now get stuck in that negative pattern and that shame that sometimes we just keep drinking. We're like, well, I already did it. So what does it matter, right? Why even bother? I was doing so well. So F it, right? F it. Who cares? And I see that happen so many times with people. So if you say to yourself, there's absolutely no shame, no guilt, I fell off the wagon, I decided to have a drink, I'm just going to get right back on and keep going and move past it, right? Every day is a new day, a new beginning, a new chapter. So if you decide to commit to not drinking and you break down, move on. Make a new commitment, start fresh. But also, I would say try to be very clear with yourself that you're not going to do that, because that kind of leaves the door open. But if it happens, no shame, no guilt. It's my number one tip on that. And then the last little tip I would say is focus on what you're gaining. Oftentimes and I do this also when I'm health coaching people to get rid of gluten or get rid of dairy, is you want to focus on what you're gaining. So when I decided to not drink alcohol, instead of thinking about, oh man, I'm losing my favorite tequila drink, or I'm losing the ability to go to a restaurant and have a really good glass of wine, or I'm going to miss out on my birthday because I'm not going to be able to have a champagne. I'm going to miss out. Stop thinking about what you're going to miss out and think about what you're gaining. I'm gaining a lot of money in my bank account. I am gaining better clarity in my mental health. I'm gaining a happier, healthier relationship. I am gaining a lot of health, right? I'm gaining a lot of vibrancy. I am gaining more intuition. I'm gaining more trauma clearing. So I think a lot about what I'm gaining, and that super outweighs what I might be missing out on. So make that list, even if you have to write it down and remind yourself. That helped me so, so much. And lastly, I told this piece of advice to a girlfriend just the other day. If you really want to stop drinking or you want to try and experiment with this, I advise you to stop the day after you feel like crap. Because let me tell you, the last time I drank alcohol, I went in a little too deep. I had 3 or 4 glasses of wine and I felt awful, 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 awful the next day. And so my last memory of drinking was feeling awful. So if you want to stop, stop after you feel awful, and that's all that you're going to remember alcohol feels like. So hopefully that tip helps you. If you guys have any other questions about not drinking, sober curious, wondering if you should do it, whatever, I'm here for you. Like I said, I had a lot of girlfriends that didn't drink, so going to them as a resource or honestly just watching them as inspiration has helped me. And I'm so open all the time to having a conversation and guiding you or walking you or inspiring you through your journey. This episode, again, is absolutely no judgment. I'm not telling you to do this. This is so your journey and how it aligns and feels for you in whatever way it pans out in your life. But I'm always here to have a conversation about it. I will keep you guys updated on how it's going, how long I go on this. And on top of that, I am going to do an entire mini series around conscious conception, conscious pregnancy, conscious parenting. It has just been such a journey to kind of learn about this whole ideology. And I have some amazing practitioners that I've been working on. So if you are someone that is pregnant and you want to learn more about conscious pregnancy, that involves kind of being aware of the foods you're eating, the emotions that you're feeling, the way that you're talking to yourself, all these things that energetically affect your newborn, right? And then conscious conception. If you're looking to get pregnant within the next 6 months or a year, how can you consciously start preparing your body? How can you consciously start clearing the womb, the space, the portal of this soul to come into this physical reality, and just being really consciously aware of that phase and stage of your life and doing it in the best way possible, not only for you and your baby. So stay tuned. That mini series is going to be absolutely amazing. I have another mini series that's coming up that I have some amazing interviewees on, and going to be a mindset mini series where we're going to talk about scarcity mindset. We're going to talk about money mindset. We're going to talk about sexuality and our mindset around sexuality. It's going to be a really good mini series as well. So I am back podcasting. I'm so excited to release this episode on the sober lifestyle I've chosen to partake in and share with you guys kind of my reality, my truth, what's going on, my healing journey, and just connecting with all of you holistic soul sisters. So I just want to say thank you so much for sitting with me this last hour, for being open to hearing my story and my journey, and for not judging it. Sometimes it's hard to share your truth and it triggers people and it makes them think certain things of you. And so I just really honor you for sitting in a space of no judgment and hearing this whole episode. And if it inspired you or it made you think about something or gave you an aha download, please, please, please share it with me. Head over to Instagram, message me at holistic.soul.sisters or Mandi Rose at my personal page. Or please leave me a review. I'm still working on getting reviews for my podcast. I've had it for 3 years and I think I have like 10 reviews. So it would mean the world to me if you could just take like 2 minutes of your life and just find that review button and write something. Let me know how this podcast has helped you and further my reach out into the world. So stay tuned, more episodes coming very soon. And if you want more astrology content from me, I did finally start a TikTok at The Relational Astrologer where I just dive into the astro weather, talking about astrology and relationships and how you can improve your relationship by understanding not only your astrology, but the astrology of your partner. So that is what I'm doing over on TikTok. And if you guys are interested in birth chart readings, We are going into retrograde season. There is a lot of crazy astrological things going on towards the end of the year. So if you are feeling lost, confused, need help making sense of your chaos, you want to do a compatibility reading, you want to know the best time in your life to open a business or make a move or get married, that's what I'm here for. We will pull up the map of the sky, we will pull up your birth chart, and I am here for you guys in all those ways and more. So reach out to me if you're interested in a birth chart reading. You can reach out to me, like I said, on Instagram, or send me an email at holisticsoulsisters1111@gmail, or just reach out about anything else. I am always here to connect with and to create community, and that's really what I live for. So every day when I open my messengers and I see you just pop in and say hi, let me know what's going on in your life, it just lights me up. So I'm going to leave this episode. Can't wait to talk to you in the next one. And until then, my holistic soul sisters, keep healing holistically and growing spiritually, and find the magic in every day.